as you know, being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things you can do in your life, because if you don't sell, you don't eat.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're a single entrepreneur, a single person company. But if you have 30 people, you're responsible for their salaries. So that if you don't sell, they don't eat. And that's even more responsibility, right? But at the same time, you gain freedom. You can choose your clients, you can choose your employees, you can change the strategy. Welcome to the Break Free podcast. I am your host, David Mancella. Today we have with us a very successful entrepreneur and a good friend, Alinka. Welcome to the show.
Oh gosh, thank you for having me, David.
Can you tell me your full name? Where are you from, or where do you live, and what do you do for a living?
It's Alinka Rutowska, so that's Polish, and I now live in Italy, managing or leading a multinational, international virtual publishing house, Leaders Press.
That's fantastic. So you lead a virtual publishing house, and I know your book publishing is among the best in the world. And I'm amazed to know that you are actually doing it remotely. You have a virtual office and producing magnificent outcomes. So let's dig deeper into that. Tell me about your business. How did you get into it, and how do you make it so successful?
Mm-hmm. It started with passion. I used to work in the corporate world in Shell and in Whirlpool. And then at a certain point, I thought that maybe there's something more to life than selling domestic appliances. So I left. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of push and pull, and there was a lot of pushback, especially from my family members saying, hey, you've got a position that a lot of people would kill for, and you're about to leave all that. You know, you've worked for it so hard through school, through university, climbing the corporate ladder. What are you going to do with your life? So there was a lot of that. But then in my heart, I knew that I was just dying there, and that there was something bigger, better, more exciting for me. So after some soul searching, after some soul searching, I was able to break free. Yeah, and it wasn't immediate. First, I had to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, but I followed my passion, which is publishing. And then in 2017, I went to a mastermind in London with Dean Jackson, and I was already promoting my books, helping other authors one-on-one. But he asked me a pivotal question. He said, what could be the highest value thing that you could do for people? And I thought, oh my gosh, if I could just be there from the start, because so many people would write these terrible books, terribly positioned, and then come to me and say, hey, can you market this? And I would have to tell them, well, I could, but I think we would have much more success if you change the title, change the cover, change the positioning, just total makeover. So I thought, how about just doing it right from scratch? And that's how Leaders Press was born. I remember we were there in that conference room, closed for 3 days. And we thought, well, what would the target audience be and what would we call it? I thought, well, leaders, business, how about Leaders Press? And we checked and the domain was available. And I remember Dean said, oh my God, I can't believe it's actually available. Get it now. So I got it. That was the, $10 best spent ever. And now we are pretty substantial company. We have about 30 people working with us. We published hundreds of entrepreneurs. As of today, 198 became USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestselling authors.
Wow.
I want to say 200, but I'm still two to go. 198 are USA Today bestselling authors. And even though we're virtual, we have a distribution partnership with Simon & Schuster. So the books go into bookstores, even though we are a virtual company. So we do physical books, and the physical books go into physical bookstores, not only on Amazon.
That's fantastic. All right. I need to dig deep into that. So first, what do you go to school for? University. You mentioned you went to university.
Yes,
right?
I studied business, economics.
Economics. And then after that, what do you do after graduation?
After that, I found an internship in Shell, which was in marketing. I was in the lubricants department. And I had the key to all the gadgets too, so that was fun.
What do you mean by that?
Not what you think. So I had the key to the warehouse where we had all the swag. So all the cool hats and bags and whatever you would put on your desk. And some of this was like Formula One stuff. So yeah, I was very successful when I was in that department.
So from economics, you went right into a marketing company for a global corporation like Shell, right?
Yeah, global right away.
And so were you doing like entry-level marketing? Like, what was your first job like?
I was a marketing assistant, I was a marketing assistant. So I had basically two people I was reporting to, and whatever they needed me for. So there was some analytical work like Excel, and I had to figure things out like formulas. But I also would travel to some warehouses and see what that looks like. So it was exciting to see that part and document it and create like a presentation for people who are in the office and maybe have never been. So a little bit of everything that's related to marketing. When you're an assistant, it's like whatever they throw at you. But I did like it. The thing I liked most was that it was Shell. That was a big corporation that everybody recognized, and I had my seat in there. But then after a while, after all the excitement wore off, I realized that I was sort of, hitting my head against the wall a little bit.
How long do you lasted there?
So the agreement was I would stay for 6 months, and that would be renewed to 6 months if I was doing well. So I stayed for 6 months. Then they sort of automatically renewed it without really asking me if I wanted to. And I remember it was, so there was an event that pushed me to leave Shell. I remember my dad was going to so I was in Italy at the time, and my dad was going to a conference in Hawaii, and he said that I could come with him as his guest. So I told my boss, hey, there's this thing, Hawaii, it's 10 days or 2 weeks. And, I know, it's just after the summer holidays and we're all taking a break, but it's just like my, a big break. I don't know when I would be able to go there again. And he said, well, I can appreciate that, but we need you in the office and not traveling around. And then I realized, you know what? That's not cool. I said, okay, well, don't give me my holidays. I'm done. We're done here. And I left to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Job already
lined up, or you just quit?
Say it again.
Did you have already another job lined up, or you just quit?
I did not have another job lined up, but I started looking right away. And very shortly after, I did find a job in Whirlpool, which was paid double and was more exciting. Was like on the fast track to being one of the leaders in the company. Then I left that too, but it was a big jump. I didn't have anything lined up, so I just left and thought I can do better.
So Whirlpool is another global corporation, right? Yeah. How do you find that job?
Again, I was excited because I was very young when I got admitted, and my salary was much higher than my peers, which I knew. I hope they didn't know. Well, now they will. That doesn't matter anymore. So, I think I enjoyed the status and just being part of this fast track program, which meant that I would do like a 6-month project here, 6-month project in a supply chain, 6 in one country, 6 months in a factory in another city. Then I was 6 months in customer service in Paris. Then I came back and did more in operations in Italy. And that was exciting. I was working with the vice president directly. So that's a pretty big deal because there's a lot of like the org chart is pretty tall. Right. So just working directly with the VP operations was a big deal. But at a certain point, he told me, I can tell that, you're committed, you're excited to be here, but this is not where your heart is. And he was right.
So tell me, how did you get into books? I mean, you already had a beautiful corporate job. You were fast tracked to all the way to the top to one of the major world corporations. What got you into writing books or publishing books?
I think I was going through some sort of quarter life crisis at the time. And as part of therapy, I started writing this self-help book. And then I found out that you can actually self-publish. There's this guy, Tim Ferriss, that just self-published his book. And when I found out, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't need to ask for anybody's permission. I can just do it. So I just did it. I published that book. And that book brought me more in royalties than my corporate salary at the time. Yeah, but that was 2010, and I don't want anybody to, get any weird ideas that, this is something that's replicable. It happened to me and got me really excited. So I thought, hey, I'm just going to jump in. I also was able to negotiate a really nice golden parachute. So I didn't leave, just like completely at zero. I left with enough funds to live for a year or a year and a half comfortably, traveling the world responsibly, but just pretty well. So I had a lot of margin.
You wrote your first book. What was the book? The name book. What was the name of the book?
The title was "Read Me, I Am Magical."
Read Me, I Am Magical.
Yeah.
So it was women, men, or both. You said it was a self-help book, right?
Self-help, yeah.
And self-published too. So you discovered that you can publish, I guess you used Amazon or something. What did you use?
Yeah, at the time there was this company called Create Space that now is basically KDP Publishing, which is part of Amazon.
Beautiful. Now, so you were writing this book to clear your mind, I guess, and just try to do a therapy. And then you said, I'm going to publish this. You had no idea what you were doing. You still had your full-time job, and then started making sales. This is crazy.
Yeah, but it sort of shows you where your passion is. Like if you're, done with your Excel spreadsheets and you still have a couple hours to go, but you can't leave the office at 4 because they look at you and they're like, what, part-time today? So just sit at your desk and pretend to be busy. And I was writing my book, and then I was promoting my book. As long as you're at your desk and people are happy, you're sitting there, you're available. So that's how I got my book done. And then I marketed it also from my cubicle. And then I thought, this is what excites me, not the Excel spreadsheets.
When I was writing my book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail, that's why I have this podcast out of that book. I did a lot of research on corporate culture and employee efficiency. And what I found was astonishing. 33% of the time of an employee is what is productive. 33% of the time. I'm talking about big corporations.
Yeah. I can tell you the whole day, what the whole day looks like in Italy in the office.
Right? But if you do 30%, you will never get fired. If you do 50% of your time, you get promoted.
Yeah.
Now, once you get to the executive level, you're doing 150%.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Like all these top executives, some of them died from heart attacks because they work so much, right? So basically, you took that into your advantage, so you can make a little time for your own book, which was just a fun project, and it became a career.
Yeah, I'll just picking back on what you said. You come into the office, and the first thing I would hear was, "Have you had your coffee yet?" I'm like, I don't really have that habit, but anyway, this is the first thing they ask you. So everybody wants to go and have coffee in the morning, then after lunch again, and then in between as well, and in the afternoon. Also, I figured out that if you're eating in front of your computer, nobody's going to disturb you because eating is sacred, at least in Italy. So I thought I can save time and sleep longer if I don't have breakfast at home, but I have breakfast at my desk. So if I would have breakfast at my desk, people would come in the office and they would be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're having breakfast. I'll come back later." So I just discovered all these, cultural things that allowed me to sort of, have some space and the productivity. Like, as long as you're there from 9 to, it's not really 9 to 5, from 9 to 7, yeah, they're happy. And yeah, if you're productive 1/3 of the time, and I think that's pretty good.
It's funny because when I finished college, I decided to open my own software consulting business without knowing that I was just a junior developer and nobody would trust me with their software. So I failed miserably. I ended up selling computers, making some money like that, but it wasn't my passion. And I almost went bankrupt on my first business. So when I could no longer do it, I thought I better get a real job because I had a wife and 2 kids to support. So once I got my first full-time job as a software developer, I was so thankful, so enthusiastic, and my work habits were so ingrained because I was working 16 hours a day trying to save my company. So that I got my first job and I just wanted to do everything and give me more. And, I was so enthusiastic. And one day, my immediate boss told me, you're making everybody else look bad. Slow down. I'm like, why? Well, your productivity is 3 times as much as everybody else. And if I allow you to do this, they're going to demand from us so much that nobody will have a life. So slow down. So they actually slowed me down on purpose. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I can see that.
That's incredible. So when do you decide to take a leap? Like, it's so amazing to have a mentor that tell you that was not your career, right? Your life path. Like, so your boss, the vice president, how did that happen? Tell me, like, what was that like?
I traveled with him a lot. We would have 4 factories that we were in charge of. So he as the vice president and I was the business planner. So I had like the budget, which was, I think, about 20 million euros a year to distribute between 4 factories. And the factory directors would be calling me like, hey, I need more money for this, whatever machine producing this widget. I'm like, I have no idea how much a machine like that costs, how much a spare part costs. And these 4 factory directors calling me nonstop that they all needed the money. And the vice president's telling me like, I need to cut the budget because we need to be cost cutting. And it was just like, and what do I really care about that? So that was the thing. And, I was doing my job, but he saw my boss saw that there was no passion. And I think I guess he was empathetic. He could understand that, he could see it. And he was close to retirement. So I think it was his last business planner, basically, because that was the position. It was you would rotate. So that was like a 1-year position and then you would move on. That's the way it was constructed, like a growing position. And when he left, another person came in, and he was a young, driven, business professional who hated me the moment he saw me, which also was another thing that triggered me wanting to leave. Because it's incredible. Like in the corporate world, you might be the boss, but you don't choose your employees. Like you get promoted, you get sent to different places, different divisions, different countries. The team is already there. Of course, and they can make your life a living hell, and vice versa. And then you can see how you want to deal with it. You can all the philosophical stuff, but it was a factor as well. And now as an entrepreneur, I'm able to choose my teammates. So that's another pro.
More freedom, right? And that's why it's called break free, right? I believe what we're looking for in life is more freedom. And as you know, being an entrepreneur is one of the hardest things you can do in your life, because if you don't sell, you don't eat.
Yeah.
And that's fine if you're a single entrepreneur, a single person company. But if you have 30 people, you're responsible for their salaries. So that if you don't sell, they don't eat. And that's even more responsibility, right? But at the same time, you gain freedom. You can choose your clients. You can choose your employees. You can change the strategy. Another thing that I keep telling people is that I went into business because I was very afraid of not having an income. And they tell me that's the opposite, David, because if you're an employee and you have stability and you always get your salary no matter what, and that's true, but at the same time, it's one source of income. If I have a business, I'm going to have at least, 10, 15, 20 clients. If one client finishes, I can go get another client. So I don't have one source of income. I have many sources of income. So that creates more stability. Now it takes a while to get there. I remember my first client was so hard, and I did whatever I could to keep them happy. And then I was putting so much attention into one client that I didn't have time or money to do marketing and sales, so that my clients will finish the project and then I will have nothing to do for 2 or 3 months, and then I will get another client. And while that was happening, I was eating the company's reserves. But then I will get another client until finally realized that I needed to have more clients, and then more stability came, right? But now I have freedom, like you, right?
Yes, it's amazing.
So you left. You had your package. Were you already published with your book? Was your book already successful or not?
Yes.
So
I was in a good position because the book was doing well. I negotiated the golden parachute. So I left and I was in a strong position to lead.
That's wonderful. How long did it take you to get your first client? Or actually, let me rephrase that. You knew you wanted to become a publishing company, right? Since day one?
No, I knew I wanted to write more books and publish more books. And that was what I was passionate about. Then I started helping other authors who would come to me and say, hey, you're doing so well with your books. Can you help me? And then I thought, well, if there's one person asking, there'll be more. So then I started reaching out. And then that mastermind happened where I put together Leaders Press, because it was better to have these elegant packages, elegant solutions than doing all this custom stuff.
That's fantastic. How long did it take you to actually formalize and get your first client? Paying client.
At Leaders Press or doing
Leaders Press? Yeah.
Leaders Press. I think the mastermind was in the summer of 2017. We started outreach. So it was really important to me to implement. I didn't want to go to the mastermind, have a great idea, and then keep doing what I was doing. Yeah. So I immediately started implementing, and we got the first client that year for sure. I think we got the first 3 clients that year. And those were, the most difficult. Like the first one was the most difficult because there's like no proof of concept. I had all the previous success, but the objection was, well, but you haven't actually written a book for somebody else yet, right? You promoted it. And I'm like, well, yeah, but there always has to be a first one. And the client was like, I don't know if I want to be the first one here. What about it? Have the prize. And so that's how we got started. And that was the most difficult one. And then the second one was much easier. The third one was a same-day close. So we were on the phone and I was walking him through the sales page, and he's like, I'm putting my credit card details inside in the form. I was like, whoa. So that was really good, but that's more like an exception. It's not something that happens right away. And we did a great job for that guy. Like his book was on the bestseller list for a year, and he was like, he was just like, let's do it, let's go for it. I don't know where he was. I mean, it's a bit of a leap of faith, when you're just starting with a really young company. Now we have all these credentials. Now we have almost 200 USA Today bestselling authors, and now we distribute through Simon & Schuster. We didn't have any of that at the time. So it's really exciting. But once you get the first sale, like you got a sale, you got one, and it's not your mom or dad or your lover. You got one. You're in business.
You're in business. How long did it take you to start hiring people?
I hired my assistant almost immediately, and then a ghostwriter. And for a while, we were a 3-person band. I was doing basically almost everything: the outreach, the sales calls, all the marketing for the business, the marketing for the books. I was the one publishing the books. I never wrote a single book for a client, so we always had a ghostwriter for that. And then slowly, we were getting one person after another, and now we're 30, and I really don't need to be wearing all those hats anymore. Sometimes I do, if I meet somebody at an event, then, I usually don't don't say, hey, talk to my sales guys. I take care of it myself. I enjoy the process as well.
Right.
But right now we have so many people coming through the door that if I only did, calls, I wouldn't have enough hours in a week. Like there wouldn't be enough hours in a week for me to process that. And then there's everything else. So we have a sales team right now. It's really, really strong, I think. Just, high caliber professionals, just amazing people. But it wasn't always that way. The first salesperson that I hired is not like the ones that we have right now.
It's all
but
a
this
little
person
bit.
helped me grow. They helped me grow. They did a really good job. But you don't know what you don't know. So you grow so much. I've grown so much throughout these years. What I'm doing right now is completely different than what I was doing 5 years ago.
So what would you advise somebody that wants to start their own business? They have the high-paying job that you had, and they don't feel that they have the confidence to go and do it. What would you tell them?
When I was still in the corporate world, I had an agreement where they couldn't fire me. So what they did was they sent me to various job interviews internally to interview for positions within Whirlpool. And I had an interview with one guy, I don't remember the position anymore. And he asked me, why do you want this position? And I said, well, I don't. HR sent me here, said I have to interview. And in fact, if I do end up working with you, I feel that a part of me is going to die every day.
That's the worst job interview in the world.
That was my job interview. So if you are listening to this right now, and this is what you're feeling, that if you keep doing what you're doing, a part of you will die every day. I think, that should be enough to take the leap and break free.
That is amazing. And the thing is that if you get enslaved by fear, you start dying little by little. And the problem with that is that if you allow that to happen for too long, you are going to become a walking zombie.
Yeah.
And you won't have the energy to actually break from your chains, because fear will completely overwhelm you and you will feel desolated. People become depressed actually by allowing the fear to take care of over them, right?
Yeah. In other words, I think when you wake up, and when you wake up, do you feel a sense of dread? Like, oh my God, I have to get up and go to work again? Or are you fired up? Oh, I get to work on all these cool things, do all these cool things today. Which one is it? Because I know what my answer is now. I know what my answer was then. So I think that's a question that can guide you in the right direction.
It's beautiful. Actually, talking about that, I took a couple of days off this week. And this morning when I came into the office, I'm like, yes, I get to go to the office and I get to do this and answer my emails and talk to my beautiful team and talk to my clients. Yeah. I was excited to come back to the office. And you're right. The minute that stops happening, I'm going to have to find something else to do, because then it's a clear sign that you are not on your life path, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
That's invaluable. That alone makes this whole time so worth it. Thank you so much, Alinka, for that advice. This is wonderful. Tell me something. What's the worst problem that you ever had in your business, and how do you overcome it?
The worst problem, I think it's always when you're growing, it's related to cash. So, a position that we found ourselves twice, at least, was when when cash was really tight. And for example, recently we signed on a lot of agreements on installment plans. So we have all these funds coming in, which are substantial amounts. But then we did some research and development. So, we depleted our reserves there. We did some marketing campaigns, then it went down some more, and we came to a position where we had a bit of a hole in our timing, like a timing problem. Mm-hmm. So that's always stressful. And, you can start, I don't live from paycheck to paycheck, so I can pay myself later. And then you can start negotiating with some vendors like, hey, I'll pay you guys later. or sometimes with some high-level team members, they can also accept that, if they're not living paycheck to paycheck. And then go out to people who can help you out. So these could be some banks, like you want to start with banks. Well, you want to start with family and friends, but you might have used that option while you had a startup, probably.
Right.
Then there are venture capitalists and all that, but you might not want to give away equity. So anyway, when you have that situation, there are people who want to help you out, can help you out. You want to see if you want that help on those terms. But I think if you start, so I read this in just today in a book written by the strategic coach team, and Dan Sullivan would say, the problem is not the problem is how you think about the problem.
That's so smart.
Yeah. And, the first time that we had this situation, we then grew 4 times in 2 years.
Wow.
So you start looking at it as an opportunity. So it is an opportunity because, for example, when you take a loan from a bank, like some banks told me, have you taken loans in the past? I'm like, no, it was all client funded. Well, it's a problem since you need some history. I'm like, okay, well then how do you get the first loan? Okay, so they're not going to give it to you, but we got approved for some funding, and now even if we manage to do things without them, it's still a good idea to get it because then you build up that history. So it's an opportunity to build up our portfolio in this sense. And I had a conversation with a mutual friend of ours, and he told me, come into this from a position of strength. Look at it as an opportunity. What is opening up? And I've seen many times that, so I said that we invested a lot in research and development. This was to figure out how to more effectively hit the USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestseller lists. So super energy intensive, fund intensive. And I was feeling like, we already had a way, but we were looking for a better way. And just today, the list came out and we're on it.
Yes.
So, so it all paid off. And now we have, more than one strategy to do that. So these are the little, but you say, yes. But then it's like, well, okay, well, it's normal, spent the last 7-8 months trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
We figured it out. So I'm not like, jumping up and down a little bit, but not like the whole day, because it does feel normal. And it's just, I think, important to zoom out a little bit and say, okay, well, ups and downs on your way to success. Because, you're going to arrive, like, where are you going to arrive? At a certain point, we're just going to walk out of this reality. So it's important to enjoy the journey.
It's so true. And regarding all that, every business goes through financial trouble. And that's why most people are not capable of running their own business. Because once they start hitting financial trouble, they remember their full-time paying job and the illusion of stability, because it's just an illusion.
Yeah.
I was in a Fortune 500 company in leadership position, and all of a sudden we had to let go 500 people in one day. Some of them were like 20-year-old employees, right? 20 years in the same job, right? So it's an illusion too. But if you don't have the nerves, the capability to break through a financial situation in your business, you're not capable of being an entrepreneur, because it's normal. It's normal. See, people think that we live in a straight line, and it's not a straight line. It's ups and downs and ups and downs. So the people that actually make it are the ones that know how to get it from down to up again, and know that it's not going to stay up. It's eventually going to come down. So you are ready to go back up again. We're about to get into one of the biggest recessions that we ever seen, right? In the economy, world's economy. And people are freaking out. I'm not. I've been in business for 17 years.
Yeah.
So I've seen this in a minor and bigger scale. I went through 2008, right? So I know that this could be an opportunity. Yeah, we're tightening up a little bit, but like you said, we also have beautiful relationships with our bank. So we have loans there if we need to use them. But it's about the mindset. What are you going to focus on, the problem or the solution? Is this an opportunity to grow? Or do you think this is the end? And it's up to you. You get to create your own reality, isn't it?
Love it.
Fantastic. Alinka, thank you so much for your time, love. One last question. If you had access to a billboard in the busiest highway on earth, what would you write in it?
I think something along the lines of carpe diem. So, enjoy, this is not the exact translation, but, enjoy the journey. And to be more profound, I think slow down and appreciate the good things in life. And the more you focus on those, the more of those you will see.
Beautiful. Oh my God. So much wisdom. Thank you so much. And it's so true. We get so stuck in our goals that we don't enjoy the journey to the goal. Then the goal becomes familiar, becomes normal. And then you seem like you need to get yourself another bigger goal. And then you get there, you enjoy for 2 days, and then you are in this loop and you're not enjoying your life. Well, you should actually enjoy every single day. You even enjoy the failures, because it's in the failure that you find success, isn't it?
Yeah. You see the opportunity and you can say, I'm going to enjoy it anyway.
Exactly. Yes. Alinka, thank you so much. If people want to work with you and get their book done by your organization, how can they find you?
You can go to leaderspress.com/discover, and there's going to be a 1-minute quiz where you can figure out what book is best for you. And also you get an audiobook of Outsource Your Book. So you can figure out how to do it all either yourself or with our help. So leaderspress.com/discover.
That's beautiful. See, you add value to people right away. That's why you're so successful. I am so grateful for your time, for blessing this podcast with your presence and the people that are willing to make, the life of their dreams happen. And I wish you the best and have a wonderful rest of the week.
Well, thank you so much, David. I should have listened to this back when I was in the corporate world. It would have taken me less time to break free. Exactly. Yes, that's what this podcast is all about. How do you actually break free and live the life of your dreams? So thank you for your time. Thank you, David. Cheers.
That's all for today's episode of the Break Free podcast. Head on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Starting your own business can be tough, but it doesn't have to be. Visit davidmansilla.com to pick up a copy of the #1 international best-selling book, Breaking Out of Corporate Jail. Expand what you consider to be possible and reach your full potential. And join us on the next episode.